So we got a brand new SMG that is actually pretty good. I wouldn't say that it's overpowered, but I would say that if you have the right combination of attachments, it can definitely fit into the meta. And to unlock the Armaguerra 45, you need to get 10 hipfire kills with an SMG ideally in 15 different matches. You can do this in multiplayer for Modern Warfare or Vanguard. The benefit in doing it in Modern Warfare is you can leave the matches as soon as you have those 10 kills. And you can also do it within the Battle Royale, although I would admit that that would be way more challenging to do, especially for medium to lower skilled players. That being said, there are a lot of attachments to worry about with this weapon. It has a really good fire rate, which I thought it would. They kind of lowered the fire rate compared to what we saw within Vanguard if you had a chance to use the weapon by about 10%. So it's not completely overpowered, but there are a lot of barrels that we have to worry about when we're looking at attachments here. And then this thing also has a combination of different things, like obviously hollow point is pretty important, but with the nerf to hollow point, I'd probably stray away from that. And then we also have vital, a hard scope, which is pretty valuable if you want to use this a little bit more for sniper support. And then we got sleight of hand, and this will vary depending on what other attachments you're using, what other ones you're going to match up. And as soon as we go through the numbers, it's going to make sense. A few days ago, we talked about sim game science, which is a way for you to look at the hard-coded stats of a weapon. They just added the weapon in there, so I didn't really need to do much testing other than a couple spot checks just to say, hey, yep, it's accurate. But other than that, the stats are all there. But what ends up happening is, since there's no really like advanced TTK, you kind of have to go, all right, which option's better? Just because the TTK, that assumes you hit 100% chest shots, which isn't always going to be the case. You can go to stomach and it's like, oh, it moved, what's going on? And then you got all the different variables, and we're going to go ahead and break that down based off of that data. It's gonna be a lot of numbers. We're not going to go through all of them. I just wanted to go ahead and kind of speak briefly on what's going on here. I got all the different TTK values based off those things, the end up shots to kill, based off where you have to hit them to achieve those individual TTKs. We got the rate of fires for the base version. Obviously you get that at level 1. And then there is a level 52 is pretty much when you're going to have the majority of the attachments if you do not run vital. If you want to run vital, it's the last attachment at level 70. So you got to grind that weapon out if you feel like it's worthwhile. We have the recoil booster here with the body 315 millimeter, 60 round, 9 millimeter with vital. Not using hollow point because of that 20% range reduction. I was also set it up with rebirth TTK as well as Caldera TTK because there was a 50 health discrepancy. It takes 250 for these players and it takes 300 for these players. That's why we've assigned the two different TTKs. Overall, the base weapon is pretty solid. It's nothing special, but it is pretty solid. As long as you get some thigh and body shots and chest and stomach or neck, you're going to be pretty solid. You're going to get a reasonable TTK, relatively easy to use. It doesn't really have that great of a starting mag. But then as you go lower, we have the various different options. 549 TTK, pretty reliable actually to get those TTKs, and then at range you can kind of see where it performs, and then we can kind of go down. And where it gets crazy is this Russian short ammo. Unfortunately, you do have a smaller mag with that, so I'd recommend it maybe for solos or duos, but the TTK is 432. You are going to be deleting people, and that's not going to be a rare occurrence. Basically, as long as you get 6 out of your 10 shots, you got to hit the chest, stomach, thighs, or bicep, basically the whole torso plus a little bit of extra limb, you're going to get this TTK, which is disgusting. Again, in the larger modes, you will be able to do that as well in terms of Caldera. So it's kind of one of those things. What I did want to point out is when it comes to vital and not vital, is if we look at these two side by side, it doesn't end up changing the TTK. I didn't highlight anything. This is without vital on the right and with vital on the left. But when we go down here, you can see that this one, the TTK actually does change. It goes from 9 shots up to 10, and it impacts the shot where you need to get it. So more than likely, you'll still be able to get the fast TTK. It's just if you land too many chest shots, you're going to end up with the slightly slower TTK, which is still pretty fast for that weapon. I know that gets a little bit confusing, and I wish it was just consistent across the board. Always use vital. But if we go ahead and go a little bit further down and we decide to use this Emerito 550 millimeter barrel, we end up with the similar scenario where, hey, you know what? Using vital will lower the TTK when you're using the Russian short, but not when you're using the 60 round 9 millimeter or the 8mm Kurs, right? So we're having that issue there. But then when we get to the last one, which is the body 570, which kind of gives you that high headshot damage, a little bit lower body damage, you end up with it helping the 9mm, but it's not going to help the Russian short. So you kind of got to pick and choose. Overall, it's going to really come down to what you're going to be able to control recoil wise. And I'll give you kind of the combinations based off of this, what I would recommend pairing together and for what mode. So you have a few different options to go about it. Overall, I think the weapon's good. Will it be meta? I think in some scenarios it might require a little bit more skill, just because the best one to go with is the smaller mag, and that's a little less practical unless you're either a higher skill or you're playing solos or duos. So let's go ahead and look at some loadouts. So we're going to rock with the recoil booster because that is a meta attachment. There's a few different ones you can go right here. A lot of times you go with the Mark 6 skeletal just because it gives you the faster aim down sight. Hand stop could be good for recoil, but a lot of times I don't like taking hip fire penalties for SMGs, so I'll typically go with the skeletal. In terms of the recoil, I tend to go with the polymer grip because I'm most likely going to rock amped, so I don't really have to worry about weapon swap, and then this helps maintain a lot of the recoil, even though that one was nerfed overall. Then we have the last perk, which I generally go over here on hand. They'll give you a little bit faster aim down sight, which we talked about in our previous video, or you can go quick, which just gives you a little bit faster sprint speed. That one's more a little bit of preference and play style. I think most people would benefit from on hand, even though it is a minor difference on SMGs. It's not as big of a difference. And then for the stock, you can go a lot of different routes. I think most people are going to go with the folding just because that's like the no stock or collapsible stock. Like across the board, we're just sticking a lot to the meta attachments. We'll typically go with the slate reflector or iron sights. They're pretty clean. They're maybe not the cleanest iron sights we've ever had, but they are fairly clean. This one, I think most people should be probably going with lengthen, primarily because the incendiaries have been nerfed for a while. They do less damage. If people running EOD, you're just going to do less damage. And for a gun like this, you cannot be doing less damage because you're just going to burn through ammo and you're not going to be getting the kills. Hollow point, because of that range issue, you'll still be solid up close within like 8 meters, but as soon as they go beyond that, then you kind of end up 8 to 10 meters is where you're going to have a lot of engagements that you're going to struggle with. So I think lengthen helps, and that helps you have a little bit better bullet velocity, which will make it so your weapon connects a little bit better, so you have a little more consistency in the fights. Then personally, I think the body 315 is probably the way to go in general. This one, you could run sleight of hand or hard scope. Vital isn't really necessary for this first option because we're using this barrel with the 60 round. I think this is all around decent build. You can go that route and you'll probably have fun with it. It won't be broken by any means. It'll have a really good TTK. You're not going to feel like I'm at a super disadvantage, fast fire rate, super forgiving. You're good to go. If you decide to go ahead and switch to the Russian 34 rounds, which only give you 34 bullets, you got to maximize those. You're only getting like 1,000 damage per mag, which is incredibly low. It's going to be very tricky for most players, but Vital is going to be the way to go if you want the little slightly more consistent TTK. But with a weapon like this, it probably makes more sense just to rock sleight of hand because of the ammo situation, so you can reload slightly faster. So that's kind of the main combos there. You could go with this one right here because it modifies the headshot. And in this particular case, you could rock the 60 round mag with Vital because of the example we just gave. It kind of flips where it's a little bit more important to rock it the other way because Vital will actually help on the 60 round 9mm. So you kind of have that combination there. But if you feel like you still want a little bit of extra reload, there it is. So now you have like 3 or 4 different combos there. You got a good understanding. Have fun with it. Appreciate the support. Thank you for watching as always. Have a great day.